Hi, everyone. My name is Manasa, and I am what you would call an application modernization expert at Google Cloud, which means that, we've heard the term Kubernetes a million times today, but I do that every day. Kubernetes is what I breathe, eat, and sleep. But I promise you, this is not only going to go about Kubernetes. We're going to start off on a different note. So what I would like to start with is what our interpretation at Google is about sovereignty foundations. So the Google Cloud Sovereignty Foundation is a set of principles and practices that we use to enable our consumers, such as yourselves, to be able to meet compliance and regulatory requirements. And for Google Cloud, sovereignty just doesn't mean only data sovereignty. We think more than just data. We think for an organization to be really successful and feel like they own the environments in which they're running their applications and putting their data in, you also need to be able to offer operational sovereignty and software sovereignty. By data sovereignty, it means that you maintain full ownership of your data and full control of who it is that has access to your data, and to be able to deny access and control it in the way that you see fit. In terms of operational security, you are running on our cloud, but you still have full control over which of our support engineers are able to perform which actions, so we don't accidentally do anything that disturbs your workloads. And lastly, with respect to software sovereignty, we also are strong believers in open source, and we believe that customers are most successful when they're able to move from one platform to another to best suit their needs. And it's no secret, Google Cloud and Google is one of the largest contributors to the open source world. Kubernetes was born as Borg in our organization and continues to be adopted by everybody in this room. And so that's something we're rather proud of. Let me just talk you through 5 key aspects of how we achieve and implement software sovereignty, digital sovereignty on Google Cloud. The first thing we do is we make sure that your data residency compliancy is taken care of, which means that when you have an organization where you have data that needs to meet certain geographic standards, we make sure that data resides in that location only. And by default, without having to press any button, all the data that is stored on Google Cloud and that is moved within Google Cloud is completely encrypted. So that is a default setting. You can't even turn it off even if you want to. And the next thing is a feature that we have called assured workloads, which is basically a platform-level control on how you can implement certain regulatory requirements. It could be European sovereignty controls, it could be GDPR, it could be any number of things. We have several different compliances that we enable with these platform controls, and that pretty much means 2 things. First, you make sure all your workloads that are run in the areas that you expect them to run, and all the data that they're moving around are also within the regions that you expect them to run between. And so that even accidentally, your own employees, even though the cloud is global, cannot accidentally deploy things in the wrong places. And the second level is that we also make sure that the support engineers that may help you in the future also comply to certain requirements, such as, for instance, with the European workloads, we make sure that people that help you have gone through some vetting processes and also are based in the European Union and also are citizens of the European Union. So these are sort of compliancy checks that we also automatically enable for you. Next is access transparency. Every single action that a support engineer takes, and that is based on what you set, is completely logged. So there are moments at which support engineers need to look into your environments to be able to help you out with problems, but every single action of theirs is logged and can only happen alongside the guardrails that you set, so that we can't willy-nilly go in and do things on your environment. Next is encryption. Like I said already, everything is encrypted at rest and in transit, but we also offer the option for you to manage your own cryptographic keys so that you don't need to rely on Google Cloud to maintain your keys. So all the data that is on Google Cloud, even Google Cloud can't do anything with, because those keys can live outside of the Google Cloud environment. And last but not least, confidential computing is something, again, we've heard a lot, which means that the data that is also in action, data that is being worked on by machines is also encrypted, and therefore, even if there is a leak, it's of no value to anyone that doesn't have those cryptographic keys. So in order to be able to enable sovereign controls, we have two flavors. One is where you as a customer come up and say, we're going to work directly with Google, which means that you don't have an additional partner involved, and you can very flexibly configure what sovereign controls are important for your organization. And at the same time, you take the responsibility of managing your own keys and use a third-party service to be able to do that. But for a lot of organizations, that might not work, simply because you want to offload your operational overhead to a third party, in which case we also work with local partners, so partners that belong to a region and are very aware of what is happening there and what the regulatory requirements there are, and are able to offer higher levels of sovereign controls by being able to work with them. So those are the two flavors that we offer. And again, with the cryptographic key management, what I'm trying to show you here is that any data that you have on Kubernetes, Compute Engine, or BigQuery, all of that is encrypted, and the key that actually creates the ciphertext lives entirely outside of Google Cloud. Therefore, even if there are memory leaks, anything that happens, nobody can access your data, not even Google. So the next part is, of course, now we're talking about software-related sovereign controls. How do we make sure that the hardware, at the end of the day, we are providing you hardware, we are providing you infrastructure. How do we make sure that the infrastructure that we use and the data centers in which we run those infrastructure are also protected, because they're also a threat surface? So one of the things that Google Cloud does is every single piece of hardware, including chips, networking, and servers, all of those are designed by Google Cloud and heavily controlled. And they all have hardware root of trust chips in them. So the identity of every single machine is verified. And also the software that runs on all of these, including the bootloader, including the operating system, we have keys to make sure that there's no malicious software that is being inserted or any malicious hardware that can be used to form your cloud real estate. So let's switch gears to my favorite topic, which is Kubernetes and application modernization. So what we have is Google Cloud, as you all know, everything we do runs on containers. We started off by building Borg, which runs a lot of Google, and that became Kubernetes. And so we have a managed Kubernetes offering, which has multiple flavors. It doesn't, some of the things are represented over here. So you can run our managed Kubernetes service on Google Cloud. You can run it on your own on-premises environment. We also have a managed offering where we give the hardware and we fully manage the hardware on which GKE is running on your own site. We can also run GKE, connect to other clusters in multiple hyperscalers, and have a central management interface that is on Google Cloud. And also we have something called Edge, which is what I was talking about, is in certain cases where you want to have your data centers close by and you can't handle the latency or sovereignty that is offered by cloud environments. We also provide you a fully managed stack, including the hardware, which we come and install at your data centers. And then you have Kubernetes, GKE, just like it runs on the cloud, looks exactly the same, works very much the same running there. And alongside, of course, with Have, and my colleague Harm over here worked with Have to come up with a set of standards and best practices on how to run Kubernetes, Google Kubernetes engine clusters. And if you're interested in implementing that and see how that works, along with the compliancy checker, I've inserted a couple of links over here in the slide, so please feel free to browse through when you do have the time and try it out. And of course, it is also Terraform-based, so if you're a believer in infrastructure as code, as I am, you could also use that to be able to install this. So we talk about Kubernetes, we talk about the applications. One of the things that is quite important is that while running your applications is very important, there's an entire life cycle that comes with it. Right from the moment somebody writes code all the way to it, going through its test phases, ending on your cloud platform, and then you monitoring and operating it, it's an entire life cycle that needs to be managed. So just focusing on the application runtime is not enough. So we believe that to be able to do this successfully, you need to get the entire pipeline from start to finish correctly. And Google Cloud obviously offers a lot of the tools that are required to be able to do that. But on top of that, what we also have is a bunch of assessments and opinionated guidance on how to be able to set up DevOps effectively in your organization. So the way we do that is we are a part of, DORA is one of the organizations that is a research organization that has spent many years looking at how organizations work, what makes successful organizations successful, what makes slightly less successful organizations as well, and it's compiled an entire body of research. And with this body of research, we're able to identify and say, hey, what are the the identifying factors of successful organizations, and how does that relate to DevOps practices? This is not related to technology. This is really about practices. What are the best practices? What makes successful organizations successful? So what we also help organizations, people that we work with, is we go in, and this is free, we go in, help you do your research, look at how you're doing your things, talk to your developers, answer questionnaires, and then give opinionated guidance on where you can improve this set of practices in your organization. And on top of that, site reliability engineering. How many of you have heard of this? Okay, well, great at some. Well, maybe that's a good thing that I'm talking about it today then. Site reliability engineering is a sort of implementation of DevOps that Google came up with about 10, 15 years ago. And this was basically to help organizations such as ourselves, first, Google Search, be able to scale. Because normally what you see is when your applications become very successful, you have a lot of users, then what happens is that the number of operational engineers you need to be able to keep the application alive also scales reasonably linearly, and that becomes very expensive, and that was also the case for Google. So what we ended up doing at Google is saying, how do we optimize this in such a way that while our success of our application scales, the number of users scales, but the operational overhead flattens. So you don't have the same burden as your application becomes successful. And site reliability engineering is a type of DevOps. It's a very opinionated implementation of DevOps that helps organizations think of how to design your applications and operate your applications from the user's perspective. So we've heard about monitoring a little bit today and logging. Anybody who's been in operations realizes that there's 500 dashboards that you look at that give you 5,000 signals. What do you do with all that information? What do you need to focus on? That is what SRE helps you with, is to be able to work back from the user's perspective, so you can come back and say, hey, what are the important things that I need to focus on in my organization so I can be cost efficient and be really successful? I'm at 14 minutes, so I think I'll leave these slides for you to browse later. So what are the compliancy offerings that Google Cloud has? And we also have a lot of documentation that, shared slide deck you will be able to share with everybody, I'm sure. And I guess take-home message would be, in order to, be able to scale and be the successful gemeentes that are helping the bewoners as much as possible, you need multiple things. You have to trust the cloud that you're running on, and you have to do your due diligence to understand that you can trust it. You have to be able to implement the regulatory requirements that are there, and also work together with organizations like Harvard that help co-create best practices with cloud providers, so that you focus on building the applications and not worry so much about all the operational things. Thank you very much.